Hey, what's up, YouTube boxing family? It is K right here, back at it with another video for y'all today. Alright, let's get right into it, man. The moment that y'all been waiting for. Shout out to Boxing Fight Simulations. Please go give him a subscribe. This is his YouTube channel that I'm going to show right here. That's his YouTube channel. Definitely go check him out. Yeah, man, let's get right into it. We have a pretty good video for y'all today. I'm going to be talking about Terence Bud Crawford versus David Benavidez. Of this particular potential fight, I personally do not want this fight, but a lot of weird Bud Crawford fans like to always push for the wildest potential fights that Crawford could very well have a tough time with. So yeah, let's get right into it. So yeah, let's just talk about this matchup, because this matchup is a very interesting matchup. But before I do that, be sure to hit the like button, be sure to share this video around, and let's get this video started. So yeah, let's talk about this matchup, man. Personally with me, I'm not in favor of this fight, simply because, I respect both of these fighters. I think David Benavidez is an absolute monster. I think he will be undisputed at 175. If David Benavidez manages to do well up against the competition, Anthony Yard is not going to be an easy fight. But I think David Benavidez moving down to 168 to fight Terence Bud Crawford will be a very difficult fight for Bud. And I think the people that enable it, that being Bud Crawford, fake fans, they will say that this fight should happen. And personally, with me, I am not in favor of this fight, simply because this fight has a lot of risk to it. Bud Crawford, he is good for what he can do as a fighter, and I think Crawford has all the skill in the world to be good. So, my whole take is that I think this fight is going to be interesting in terms of who's going to be the aggressor, who's going to utilize more defensive IQ with the ring IQ, and who's going to be out dogging the other guy. I think Benavidez has the skill to relentlessly pressure Crawford, where he has great footwork to cut the ring off. I think Crawford is going to have a very difficult time with Benavidez's jab. And also Benavidez, he knows how to counter very well too. Benavidez has been working very good with his defense. Crawford's defense is very relentless too, because Crawford does not let you do what you think you could do to him. And once Crawford gets that distance, it's game over. I think that's what makes Benavidez, want to think that the Crawford fight might be sweet for him. But Crawford, he has all the tools to give Benavidez a very tough fight. Now, as far as how Crawford will take Benavidez' punches, that's a whole different story. I don't know if Crawford's going to eat the same amount of punches that he ate from Canelo, from a David Benavidez, because David Benavidez punches way harder. But then on top of that, we can't really just say that, because, it's just based off of how David Benavidez fights, and then he's just able to just hurt people. Benavidez has a good fighting style. He's very relentless, and once he hurts you, you can't really get away from Benavidez's power, because once Benavidez feels or he senses that he hurted you, he's going to make you feel afraid of throwing the next shot, because what Benavidez likes to do is that he likes to offset a person's defensive rhythm. And then when Benavidez figures out, like, okay, I know exactly why this person's trying to box me by trying to keep me on the outside, because the biggest thing about Benavidez's flaw is that if you look at the Ronald Gavril fight, Ronald Gavril did a very good job offsetting Benavidez's balance with the footwork. And once he hit Benavidez with a good shot to drop him, I believe it was in the second fight, that's where Benavidez was not strong in order to keep his foot placement measurements to be exact of like where he's supposed to land a good shot. Now, it could very well change with Benavidez's style, because I think Benavidez now is a way better fighter compared to young Benavidez that was just going in there trying to just use his like body mass to just pressure fighters all day. So I think Benavidez has done a way better job with putting himself in a much better position. So I think, credit to his father, his Jose Benavidez Senior. He's done a very good job with David Benavidez's scaling as a fighter, and I think if Benavidez, if he sharpens up the defense a lot better, where Crawford cannot think that he can do what he wants to do with Benavidez, yeah, that will be a very difficult fight for Crawford. And personally, with me, I don't think that is worth the punishment to go to war with Benavidez, because Benavidez is not going to do what Canelo Alvarez does. I think Benavidez has better footwork than Canelo, where he's able to cut the ring off. He's able to make Crawford think in the ring, but he's also able to offset Crawford's defensive rhythm, where once he finds that, like once Benavidez finds the rangefinder, Crawford now has to use his upper body defensive lateral movement to get away from Benavidez trying to pressure Crawford. Because the good thing about Benavidez is that he has great body work. Like his body work game is super relentlessly good. But if he's able to hurt Benavidez by landing good mix up power shots where Benavidez doesn't see the punch coming, Crawford literally has the ability to hurt David Benavidez. Now, is it possible? I don't think so, because if Benavidez cannot feel Crawford's punch, and he's just like, oh well, I'm just gonna knock out Bud. He's like, he's a nobody. Blah blah blah. Which I don't think Benavidez would say that. Benavidez would give Crawford all the credibility in the world, but Benavidez is gonna show Crawford why he was never to be selected by Canelo Alvarez. This is like basically Crawford understands Benavidez's physical stature. He understands like how strong of a fighter he really is, and I think it's just due to the relentless, educated pressure that Benavidez has. Now, if Crawford is able to take that away from Benavidez, where he's able to take everything that he's good at doing by pushing all the defensive, pressure back on Crawford, where Crawford has to be forced to fight off of his back foot, or to be even fighting toe-to-toe with Benavidez to the point where Benavidez is landing some massive heavy shots on Crawford, where Crawford has to be forced to clinch every single time when he's getting hurt. Benavidez will definitely have like a field day with Crawford, and he could very well knock Crawford out. But I don't think that will ever be the case, because if Benavidez wasn't able to do that with a guy like Ronald Gavril, which I'm only using that to say that, has Benavidez ever fought anybody like Crawford? Has he ever been in the ring with somebody that is super skilled and super multifaceted to be that intelligent? Because Crawford is very good with his accuracy, as you can kind of see in the simulation with this great knockdown by Terence Bud Crawford. But look, I'm not trying to be biased for Crawford. Obviously, this is Fight Night Champion. This is a simulation, and as much as I love this game could very well tell truths that we haven't seen in the sport of boxing. But now David Benavidez, he's an absolute monster. I think that if Crawford lands that one good shot to force Benavidez to be like, wow, you did the same thing what you did to my brother, but you did it to me. And if Benavidez cannot do what he thinks he can do to Crawford, what is Benavidez going to do? Does he have a plan B? Does he have a plan C? I think that's something that we haven't seen from David Benavidez before, and it's going to be interesting to see where David Benavidez goes within his career, because as you kind of see with like how he fights, if he lands those good power shots on Terence Crawford, and Crawford's like, yo, he landed some massive shots on me, and he kind of set up beautiful traps for Crawford to not even notice of the shot coming at him. Yeah, I think Crawford can very well get knocked down, and he could get knocked out. I think Crawford, he needs to move his head. He can't let Benavidez force a dogfight with him. That's Crawford's biggest kryptonite. He gets hit with the straight rights every day, and if Benavidez, if he could land those sneaky jabs that he's really good at doing, Crawford, he's gonna be in trouble. I think that's what separates Benavidez from Crawford. Benavidez is a very good, educated, inside brawler slash, very, very unpredictable boxer. He knows exactly what he needs to do, and He's just good at what he does. You know what I'm saying? Like Benavidez is good at forcing you to be relentlessly pressured on the inside and making you feel like that you can't do nothing to him. Because that's the problem with both of these fighters. Both of these guys go out of their way, being very, technical and very strong with their counter punching ability, their combination, relentless punching, and just having to like move in motions where you think you have that shot off of them, but they know how to offset your rhythm. But I think overall, this fight would be a very great fight if Crawford was, able to keep up with the physical stature with David Benavidez, but it's not going to be easy. So personally, with me, I don't want to see this fight because I think David Benavidez, he's just right there of becoming undisputed at 175. If he could become the mandatory to Dimitri Bivol, which I believe he will be very soon. So I'd like to see David Benavidez just do what he does best and just be be good like within his own division at 175. And I think he's scaling pretty well, like I think 175 has shown him to be a really good leveled pure boxer puncher. And obviously his power is not like super duper relentless, but it's not like Benavidez has to really do much anyway to actually get somebody hurt. So personally, with me, I think Benavidez, he should stay, in his own lane. Crawford should probably just go ahead and fight Canelo in a rematch and just call it quits after that. I mean, if you for all the dumb Bud fans that are sitting in the back trying to say, nah, man, Crawford, he can do whatever he wants, man. Crawford can just go out of his way, just fighting whoever he wants because Crawford, he's undisputed, and therefore he can make that decision to give Benavidez the opportunity. And Benavidez, he's not on Bud's level. Like I feel like that's not the pure stupidity of Crawford fans that will say Bud, he doesn't have any more left to not prove himself. Therefore, Crawford should just go out of his way and just risk himself of like getting beat up by other guys being given the opportunity to fight him. So I just don't think that's a smart thing to do. I think Crawford should really play the game very smart and not give anybody else the opportunity to hurt him. So I mean that's just how I see it. Like I just think Crawford, he has no business being in a position where he should not have to be he should not have to be on the on the poor end of the poor end of the I guess of the B side, where he's having to be treated like a B side while he is a side fighter. And if you're gonna use your A side, you have to use it the right way, where you're actually demanding these fighters to come to you. You shouldn't have to come to them. And if these fighters do want to fight you, and guess what? If it is worth, the money to fight you should be saying to all these promoters or networks to say, okay, Benavidez wants to fight me, give me $200 million, to fight him. Do something like that. Like obviously Turkey Al Sheik, he's right there. And even though Turkey Alex Sheik, he's probably pissed off that Canelo Alvarez, that's his, that's obviously his prize fighter that he wanted to win over Crawford. Yeah, like Turkey Alex Sheik could very well say, hey, David Benavidez, like you want to fight Bud, man? Bud is right here. But like personally with me, I'm just hoping Benavidez does not fight Crawford, because if David Benavidez takes into that curse with Turkey Al Sheik to say, okay, like I'll fight Crawford, but the thing is like, what's the purpose of fighting him if Crawford is already at the end of his career? And it's like you don't really need to really do it on Crawford to basically like give him a much tougher fight while he's at the tail end of his career. Like personally with me, like I'm not against this fight, but I don't want to see this fight. You know what I'm saying? Like, if both of these guys are actually true championship fighters, where they're like, yo, like think about it, like This is a fight where Canelo Alvarez did not want to fight David Benavidez. And imagine if Crawford were to beat David Benavidez. You know, a lot of Bud fans, they'll be like, "Ah, nah, man, I'm not happy that Crawford beat this bum David Benavidez," which that's like the dumbest thing that any Bud fan will probably say. But it's like, if you think about it, bro, like there's so much on the table with the David Benavidez fight where, you know, the odds are definitely going to be stacked up against Crawford, and then the odds are going to go towards, you know, David Benavidez. So personally, with me, I just think David Benavidez should go ahead and just get his undisputed at 175, and that's about it. I mean, David Benavidez, he could fight Jake Paul for all we care, and guess what? He can knock out Jake Paul, and David Benavidez will be a ultimate big name in the sport of boxing. If he were to go his own route, be undisputed, and then boom, guess what? Jake Paul calls him out, be like, David Benavidez, I want to fight you next, bro. And then guess what? David Benavidez will be like, oh, you want me to come up to cruiserweight just to come whip your ass for free? Like, dude, like David Benavidez being undisputed at 175 is a far better victory feat compared to Crawford, where if he beats on Crawford, like if anything, like it might as well discredit David Benavidez's victory, because Benavidez will be like, yeah, I'm undisputed, but it's like, was it really worth fighting Crawford? Like, I think him and Crawford should just go their own separate ways, because guess what? Like Benavidez is probably upset that Canelo did not give him the opportunity, where Benavidez should have been undisputed. He should have been undisputed at 168. And I would, like, personally with me, if I was in Benavidez's shoes and I was supposed to be undisputed, in the division where Canelo Alvarez did not want to give me the opportunity, and I'm just sitting there wasting my prime away, waiting for him to give you the opportunity. Of course, I would, like, any rational human being would be pissed off. So I think David Benavidez makes a good point in terms of, like, okay, if Canelo doesn't want to give me the opportunity, I'm just gonna go my own way, because why should I waste my time along with David Morrell sitting right next to him, where both of them were obviously gonna fight each other, but David Benavidez made the right decision to just move up to 175 along with David Morrell, because both of them were like, you know what, let's just fight at 175, because it's like, it makes better sense versus fighting at 168. Like, Canelo's like sitting right there, and then guess what? But the winner doesn't really get anything out of it, because it's like you're still having to wait for Canelo to make that decision, where it's like he just has the sanction bodies, within his pockets, or there's probably some political connection that Canelo has, where the sanction bodies does not enforce their rules fairly for every champion. So, personally, with me, I think it just pretty much shows that, when it just comes down to it, like, David Benavidez, did things, the right way. Like, let's just say if Canelo was not there at 168 and he was just staying at 160, and he just kind of like got undisputed there, but he was just sitting there like a weak champion, being undisputed, defending his titles like 4 or 5 times. And Benavidez, he was undisputed. And let's just say Crawford, he moved up from 147 or 154 all the way up to 168 and beat David Benavidez. While David Benavidez was undisputed, let's just say he defended his titles like 2-3 times, and he fought Crawford, in a fourth undisputed title defense. That would be insane. Because personally, it would make Benavidez a way better fighter to get to that level of being, supremely successful. So, pretty much, like, my whole deal is that I don't want to see this fight, because obviously, like, you kind of saw Crawford getting knocked down really bad. I don't want to see that happening to Bud. I don't want to see that happening to David Benavidez. I think both of these guys would definitely kill each other in the ring if they were to have like a war of words, because for any of you guys that don't know what happened between Bud and David Benavidez's family, Crawford did fight Benavidez's brother, Jose Benavidez. So it's like, imagine if Bud actually were to talk shit to Benavidez and say, bro, I'll beat you way worse than your brother, Jose. And if David Benavidez gets some anger out of that to be like, you know what, let me go ahead and go whip your ass at 168, and then I'm going to go back up to 175 and get undisputed. Like, dude, like, it's not like honestly, again, I don't want to see this fight because I don't want to be rude to either side. But if you're David Benavidez, you know, personally with me, you would be pissed off that your brother got beat up by one of the best fighters in the generation. But on top of that, like, Crawford is a very good, smart fighter. So it's like, I think Benavidez understands that fighting Crawford is not going to be somebody to be like, oh, I'm just going to knock him out because I'm David Benavidez. No, like, Benavidez has to study Crawford and be very, how should I say, be very intelligent. So I think I think overall it's gonna be telling to see how this fight would go down if they were to fight. So I just don't know how that's going to go about with, the styles. I think Benavidez fighting very aggressive to Crawford is going to make Crawford think very deep in this fight, and Crawford taking the punishment from Benavidez's power is going to make Crawford be like, okay, this guy is way different from Jose, but this is somebody that knows how to think with you, and then he also relentlessly pressures you. So personally, with me, I don't want to see this fight. And shout out to YouTubers like BFTB, where he's made a good argument stating that this fight would not give credit to either guy, because this is more like a fight for Canelo Alvarez to basically clear his wrongs for fighting David Benavidez. And sadly, Crawford, if he has to, if like Crawford doing the honors of having to beat Benavidez, just kind of puts himself in a much worse position where, like, if Crawford ends up winning but he ends up taking damage with Benavidez, where Benavidez pressures him and makes him into a fighter where he's dealing with like a lot of punishment. It could very well ruin a lot of, it could ruin a lot of future opportunities for Crawford to get bigger fights. So it's like, why fight Benavidez? If it's not worth, the money, then there's no reason to fight Benavidez. Because, it's the same reason why Bud fought Canelo. It was clearly for a money grab, which not a lot of people like to agree with that. But I'm definitely one of few people that, that personally think that way. And shout out to BFTB, because he also made that claim initially first. So I definitely agree with that. So my whole take is that if we're going to be honest here, we have to understand that Crawford and Benavidez is not going to be the fight that people think it's going to be. Like, Bud is just going to wash Benavidez. No, this is a very difficult, true 50-50 level fight. And if Benavidez hurts Crawford and he's not being shunned by Crawford's power or Crawford's accurate punching to actually hurt Benavidez with great, precision like punches, then Crawford, he's in trouble, bro. If Benavidez does not feel hurt by Crawford's power, he's just gonna dog walk Crawford, and it might be a bad night. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say. I don't want to see this fight happen, but but yeah, yeah. That's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think, and I hope you guys enjoy everything out of what I was having to say. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I will see you guys later, and shout out to Terence Crawford, and shout out to David Benavidez. They're both great fighters in their own right. And hey, man, if this fight does happen, I'm not mad at it, but I would personally not want to see it. So let me know what you guys. Yeah. So let me know what you guys think. All right, bye, peace.